This is Chiming In.
Mate, I've done so much stuff that I never thought I'd ever do, like radio, TV, modelling. Like, seriously, have a look at my head. But I had other things on my mind. I had to shower with these blokes. And as you know, down below I'm not going that good. And didn't really want everyone in the world to know, but now I don't give a shit.
End of that season, Wayne Bennett sacks you.
Yes.
Why did he sack you?
I was a threat.
You're a threat to Wayne Bennett.
Yep.
Right.
Well, no one else thinks that, but I believe that. Mate, there's not many positives to come out of prostate cancer.
You had insurance.
Well, actually, I did. Yeah. I did have insurance.
Tell us about that.
Give us some skin. I forgot about that. I've probably given you 7.5% of that too. I can't remember. I didn't know where the light switches were and I had to get up to do a wee in the middle of the night. And I had a rough idea where the toilet was.
Was there trouble?
Well, there was a bit of an issue. Well, it's too late now. I don't give a rat's whether they want to check it out or not. In fact, I can't even remember if the story's true. I'm that old. I may have just made that up, but I don't know. I think it's true.
Darryl Brohman, rugby league legend and media personality, welcome to Chiming In.
Thank you, Chimes. This is fantastic. I never thought you'd get into this podcasting, but it's obviously a quid in it, so you're in it. Good work.
It's all about giving back, Darryl.
Of course it is.
It's all about giving back.
Of course it is.
Mate, we've got a lot to talk about today. You've got a fascinating life story and kindly sharing it with us today. Let's go back to the early days up in Brisbane as a kid. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Mate, we lived at a suburb called Chermside. My dad was a bricklayer. Mum did a little bit of work around the place. I mean, this is a long time ago, mate. I was born in 56, so, as a kid it was early 60s. We didn't have a TV in the early days. And then we eventually got a TV in, I don't know, about 68 or something. It was the best thing that's ever happened. We all sat around that and whatever. But, mate, we were always a footballing family. Dad was a pretty reasonable player. He coached a bit. And I sort of just loved football and started playing when I was about 11 for Norths in Brisbane. Because in those days you had to play where you lived for the club the suburb or whatever where you lived, you had to play for that club. But it wasn't hard to play for a club like Norths. In those days, they'd won about 7 or 8 premierships in a row and had a very strong club. And I just went through the grades with Norths, and Mum and Dad used to take me to Lang Park just about every weekend to watch a game of football, match of the day at Lang Park. And we'd go early, see the 3 grades in those days. Dad would stop off on the way there. If Mum wasn't with us, he'd stop off at the pub, have about 3 pots or something, and I'd have a double sauce and a packet of twisties in the car so I wouldn't tell Mum. They were the rules. I abided by them, but I used to love it, go to the footy and watch the 3 grades. You had a pretty intimate knowledge of every player who played for the clubs in those days. And you'd, sort of be hoping that someone from thirds would make seconds and then make firsts. It was good.
What about school life? Were you any good at school?
I was early until I got a bit older. Then I lost my way, lost interest. Rugby league sort of took over a bit. I was all right. I went to Chermside Primary School, then to Wavell Heights High School, which a few blokes went there actually. I think Inglis might have gone there. I think Cam Smith might have gone there. So, yeah, went to Wavell Heights and I actually played schoolboys for Queensland in, I don't know what year it was, 1972, I think. And I didn't do particularly well, so I decided to repeat senior year in 73 and to play football again for Queensland because I loved the schoolboys. It was great. We got smashed by New South Wales, but, we had a decent side. And I repeated to basically play footy for Queensland, but as it turned out, I ended up getting picked to play for North's first grade in my last year at school, which was, I think it was 73. It's either 73 or 74. And
so you're at school,
yep.
School student playing first grade rugby league in the Brisbane Comp.
My first game, Tommy Bishop played for Norths. What had happened, in about 73, the Queensland QRL were sick and tired of getting hammered by New South Wales, so they actually brought a couple of blokes from the New South Wales League up to Queensland. It must have been 74 because they brought Tommy up. I think he played 73 with Cronulla. So Tommy Bishop left Cronulla in 73 to go to Brisbane to play for Norths, and John Sattler the same year left Souths and played for Wests in Brisbane. So, mate, as it turned out, I played my first grade game against Sattler and with Bishop. And the next year, as luck would have it, Sattler came over to North, so I ended up playing with both of them in the same team. It was incredible. Incredible. I had a few issues, though. I wasn't super fit. They gave me the goal kicking, by the way, my first grade game. Still at school, they gave me the goal kicking. I think I kicked 1 from 5 or something. I didn't play particularly well. I didn't kick very well, but I had other things on my mind. I had to shower with these blokes, and as you know, down below I'm not going that good, and didn't really want everyone in the world to know. But that's now I don't give a shit. It's part of what I say.
Is it true you were considering becoming a vet when you left school?
That's what I wanted to be. How do you know that?
I do my research.
You've done your research. Yeah. I always wanted to be a vet because I loved animals. I still do. But I wasn't smart enough, mate. And I ended up going into the bank. I went worked for the Bank of New South Wales, it was called in those days. It's now the Westpac. And started there and did that for a few years. And
so
quite enjoyed it.
Were you a teller?
I ended up being a teller, yeah. I got robbed once.
Really?
I tell you the rob.
Tell us
at Penrith, mate. I when I left Brisbane to come to Sydney, I got a transfer with the Bank of New South Wales. So I went to High Street in Penrith. The Westpac there was Wales, Bank of New South Wales, was pretty good section. It was in the main street, High Street of Penrith, but at the back there was a car park, an area, and there was also an entry at the back to get in. Anyway, we closed up one day. I know I'm skipping a few years here maybe. Closed up one day and I was a head teller at the time, and next minute I looked out the back door and there was a bloke with a sledgehammer trying to smash down the back door. I thought, Jesus. Like, there was probably about 5 tellers. It was me and I think 4 lady tellers. Like, I put myself, thought,
you
I'm not
muscled
going to
up.
stand here. No, I didn't muscle up. I started walking really quickly and I had nowhere to go. I just looked around where I could hide a bit. So stupidly, I went into the safe. There's a big safe, walk-in safe and everything. So I stood in there for a while. Then, as it turned out, he couldn't get through the door, this bloke. So I sort of stayed in there for about 5 minutes. I was petrified, as everyone else was. But he didn't get in. Mate, in those days, we had guns. I was given a gun, like as head teller.
Yeah.
So what do you think I'm going to do? No, it was like in your drawer where the money was.
Yeah.
I just left it there. I wasn't getting involved in that. So,
Did they
this
teach
was
you
this
how
is
to fire the thing?
mate. I don't think you need too much, tutelage to know how to shoot a gun. Like it's like that, and there's a trigger, and you go like that. That's what I thought you did.
Right.
But I never used it, but they were different days, mate.
Did you always balance?
Not always.
Right.
I tried to balance, particularly on Fridays. I wanted to get out as quick as I can for the weekend because Fridays, I think in those days, we used to be open till 5. I can't remember. Normally we shut at 3, but I think on a Friday we opened till 5 for some ridiculous reason. And then you wanted to get home because I was playing footy as well and I might have had training. But, mate, sometimes you didn't balance. It was just punishing.
Last banking question, Big Maarn.
Yes.
Banking's changed a lot, hasn't it? I mean, you go the handy teller now and it costs you $3.
It does.
You must be disappointed in the banking system.
Well, I am a bit. I notice these days. I've worked it out. You just tap and go these days. That's so much easier,
Right.
for stuff. And I even as late, recently I went over to Vegas for the footy and I was getting money out of the handy bank there to go and have an investment on poker machines and tables and stuff. And mate, it cost me, no matter how much you got out, right, in US dollars, it cost me $12 US to withdraw. I know we blow up here about how, cost of living, but I'll tell you, it is out of control over there. Let me tell you, $12. Like if you want to draw $50 out, it costs you $62.
Wow. Hey, tell us about how you got from North to Penrith. How did you manage to crack a deal with an NRL club?
Mate, I'd never really wanted to come to Sydney, but I got to a stage. I had a shoulder operation in my last year at Norths, and I missed a bit of the season. Anyway, Tommy Bishop had moved from Norths a few years earlier, and he ended up in Sydney, and he was coaching, I think, North Sydney at the time. And he came over and asked me if I wanted to join North Sydney. And, we had a few beers, and one led to another, and anyway, I agreed to it. And out of the blue, I got an offer the day or so after from Penrith. And I thought about it, because I never really wanted to, I didn't know if I'd assimilate into the Sydney lifestyle very well. So I thought maybe I'll try and get out of the contract with Tommy, because I was pretty good mates with Tommy. And I think I want to go to Penrith, because it was out of Sydney. And in those days, it was really a long way out of Sydney. These days, it's not. Because Nick Geiger, who I played with in Brisbane Norths, who played for Australia that year, he'd signed with Penrith, and he put a good word in for me. And anyway, Charlie Gibson, who was the boss there in those days, he came up and had a chat to me. Money was about the same, but I just felt as though I didn't really want to stay in Sydney as opposed to Penrith. I thought Penrith would be better for the lifestyle. Anyway, there was a drama with that. I had to get out of the Norths contract. Tommy had the shits with me, and I eventually got out of it and decided to come to Penrith. There was a player, and the catalyst for that was there was a player who I'd played all my junior football against by the name of Jeff Naylor, who came down in about 77 or 78 to play for Balmain. And he was a front rower, same age as me. I played all my junior football against him, and I thought I was a better player than him, but, maybe I wasn't, I don't know. And he'd made it in Sydney, and I thought, you know what, if he can do it, I can probably do it. So I ended up coming down. I was really unfit. It took me a long time to get, anywhere near fit. But I played with Penrith in 79. I actually got Player of the Year. I had a really good year, and sort of started there, mate.
They weren't super successful in the early days, weren't they?
I think we ran last most years.
Yeah.
But they'd bought a couple of, remember, they used to delve. They used to try and get blokes from rugby union, and they had 2 South African boys who were just good blokes but couldn't handle league. And they bought various players, but it wasn't really until probably the mid-'80s when they started accumulating some pretty good players.
But you built some great relationships there with some great people. Tim Sheens would have been
there.
Yeah,
Tim Sheens. Well, Tim, I played with Tim, and he ended up coaching me there, but he was there when I first started. Len Stacker was the coach. I love Len Stacker. He's a great man. Him and Kerry. They're still around. I speak to them not often, but sometimes. And then Len got the flick, and I think he went over and coached Wests, I think. And Johnny Peart took over. I actually went and saw Pearty about 6 weeks ago. He's in a nursing home. He's struggling a bit, but he's a lovely bloke. And then I think Pearty got the flick, and then Tim took over from there. So, but I left. I think when Pearty left, I left.
So you end up at Canterbury.
Yeah.
How did they manage to get you across there?
It wasn't hard. Penrith didn't offer me a contract. So, I thought, probably don't want me. Given the fact they didn't offer me a contract, I thought, okay, I'll go. I actually, similar to when I first came to Sydney, I copped a lot of injuries along the way, and I was always, a bit iffy with regard to shoulders, and broke my arm a few times. I actually wanted to go to Parramatta. I got an offer from Parramatta. See, Parramatta won the comp in 81, 82, 83. At Kenny, Sterling, Growth, Ella, Cronin, the
super
outstanding back line and a pretty handy pack of forwards. And I lived at Penrith, and I thought, well, they won the last 3 comps. And they did offer me a contract.
You could have put the polish on that forward pack.
Well, that was my thinking, yes. Yeah. I could have led them to probably 10 premierships in a row. But I got a call from Bullfrog. So there was only 2 clubs wanting me. There was Parramatta. And I had my mind, I wanted to go to Parramatta because it was close. They were successful. But the Bulldogs in those years, probably 81, 82, 83, were the 3rd best side in the comp, because there was Parramatta were 1, Manly were 2, and Canterbury were 3. And there was sort of big gap to, the rest after that. Bullfrog rang me and said, I'd like to have a chat to you. So him and Barry Nelson took me to a Chinese restaurant.
You would have liked that, wouldn't you?
Did like it. I tried not to eat too much, tried to make a good impression on them, but that was difficult because I had double serving of entrees from memory. But, that's what happens. It was off-season. Anyway, they started talking. And Bullfrog said, mate, very, very keen on getting you here. Bulldogs, very, very good club. And I thought, yeah, I know they are Bullfrog, but I've got an offer from Parramatta. I live nearby. They're the premiers. He said, well, I'll offer you 10,000 more. I said, okay, I'll sign. So then I thought about it. I did. I signed it. But I'd also thought about they'd done at the end of 83, they were sick of running second or third, right? So they bought Peter Kelly, Terry Lamb, Peter Tunks, and a number of other players, Brian Batiste. They wanted to get their forwards up to scratch. And
salary cap?
Well, I think it was pre-salary cap days. But, mate, I wasn't getting that much. I mean, I think I got 27,500.
Underpaid?
Yeah, way underpaid. Way underpaid. Based on my 84 form. Based on my 85 form, way overpaid.
But you can't put a price on a premiership ring.
No, you can't. And I thought about that when I signed, but it was 10,000 more. And when you even Parramatta offered me 17.5, Canterbury offered me 27.5. It was significant. It was 30 or 40% more than what I was going to get at Para. In saying that, when I signed, I thought, Parramatta's still going to be hard to beat. They're a great side. But I knew Canterbury had recruited really well, and they did.
And you won the comp that year.
Yeah, we did. I had a tough year, though. First trial, we played St George, and I dislocated my shoulder. And I had to have an operation, so I missed probably half the season, recuperating and trying to recover with the shoulder problem. I had so many shoulder issues and stuff, with all due respect, how I'm loath to wrap myself. I should have been a way better player for a couple of reasons. One, injuries really hurt me.
Yeah.
And two, I didn't get myself fit enough. And I can only blame myself for that.
And
but
bank robbery might have scarred you too.
Yeah, it probably did. I probably fall back on that a bit. I had a lot of things that scarred me over the years. But I should have been better than I was. But injuries and probably my own fitness hurt me. But anyway, cut a long story short, I ended up coming back to the Bulldogs mid-season. They were leading the comp in 84. Had a very good side. And I was playing pretty average in reserve grade. I wasn't fit. Shoulder was still sore. I just wasn't right. Anyway, I thought, I'm going to languish here because they're going pretty well in leading the comp. Anyway, there's a game we played one day at Belmore, and I'll never ever forget this. It changed my life in so many ways. Played reserve grade at Belmore. In those days, 8 or 9 of the blokes who played reserve grade sit on the bench for first grade. No fresh reserves. So we'd played a game. I think we won reserve grade, sat on the bench for first grade. In this particular game, Bulldogs were playing Cronulla. Cronulla was being coached by Jack Gibson, the super coach, and Warren Ryan was our coach. Half time comes, and Cronulla, who were running about 7th in the competition, were leading us 18-20-0. And Warren was filthy because this was a game he wanted to win against the super coach because he believed he was the super coach. Jack Gibson wasn't. And in saying that, Warren was a great coach. He was a super coach. Anyway, half time comes. He's filthy. Anyway, there's 8 or 9 of us reserve grades. It's like sitting on the bench while the first graders come in. He says, okay, you are off. You, and you are on. You can make 4 changes in the game at half time. And I was one of the 4 that went on. I thought, shit. Oh, well. So I went out there. I played okay without being brilliant, and we ended up, I think we won the second half, but we still lost the game. Anyway, in those days, there's really no communication between then and the first training session. That was a Sunday. We trained on a Tuesday. We've all gone to training, sit down, there's probably 50 or 60 of you sitting there, the first, second and third grade, and they all call the teams out chronologically. Anyway, I'm in first grade, and so are the other 3 blokes. I think Steve O'Brien was one, and Mark Bugden was another one. I can't remember who the other one might have been. Might have been Mick Potter. I can't remember. Anyway, we're still in first grade. The 4 blokes who went on at half time are starting the next week. So I thought, geez, this side's leading the comp. We're a pretty good side. Like we had Terry Lamb, Mortimers, all the Mortimers.
Yep.
Peter Kelly, Tunks, Langmack, Gillespie.
Yep.
Even though Gillespie was sort of just feeling his way in there around that time. Steve Folkes. Mate, they're a good side. And I somehow managed to get into the second row, and I played pretty good next week. And then we never lost a game. Went right through to the grand final. I was a bit dirty because I'd started games, and come semi-final time, Warren Ryan came up with one of his great ideas. He said, look, I'm not going to start you in these games because I don't want them to bash you out of it. And I thought, well, neither do I. And he said, I'm going to leave you on the bench. And I was a bit pissed off, to be honest with you, because I'd played really well leading into the semis, and I thought, anyway, I was dirty because he put Brian Batiste in to start the games. I'd come on just before half time, hopefully produce some goods.
That's the year Mark Bugden scores the try.
Yeah, it was 84.
Yeah,
and I'd come on I think we were down. No, it was 0-0 when I came on. It was just before half time, and believe it or not, they scored a try on my side of the field, sort of up the middle, right before half time, pretty close to the post, and Mick Cronin missed the kick. So it's 4-0 at half time. We're down, grand final. We go out in the second half, and I had a great second half. I played good. You know when you play well. And in a big game, all you want to do is play well. And I did. I played well.
The Bugden try was a great individual try. I bet you wish you'd played a part in it.
Well, I believe I did. I mean, it's probably bullshit, but I think I may have run the decoy on the left where he threw a dummy and he went the right. But I think probably more to the fact was that Ray Price was down injured at the time. He could find an injury, Pricey, but he was down injured at the time, and that didn't help him, and he just scooted over and scored. I don't know if Andrew Farrer or Chris Mortimer kicked the goal. It might have been Chris Mortimer.
What's the first thing you do after winning the comp? The hooter goes, what's the first thing Darryl Brohman does?
Well, I'm a bit different than most because I've been watching the game for a while. First thing I tried to do, because there were 3 Mortimer brothers. Steve was our captain, right? I tried to elbow one of the Mortimers out the way to get to Steve because I wanted to put him on my shoulders because I knew they'd be taking photos of Steve Mortimer, and I didn't want the 3 Mortimers to be involved. I wanted to be part of it.
Right.
So I don't know which one I elbowed out of the way, but if you look at any of the photos of the 84 grand final, the aftermath, there's Steve Mortimer on the shoulders of either Chris or Peter, and Big Maarn on the other side. So I pushed my way in there somehow. So, mate, I know there's photos all over where they train at Belmore. I know there's photos of that there. There's a photo of it, I think, in the Leagues Club. And, mate, whenever you look at the 84 grand final, and they do show the last, after it, with Steve Mortimer being carried around, well, I'm underneath one of his legs. So I've tried to get myself in the limelight there.
How does Big Marn get his nickname?
Well, Hadley gave it to me, actually.
Did you have one prior to that? When
Professor, they used to call me. The Professor. Bob Hagan gave me that, and Bob only passed away a couple of weeks ago, I understand. So he was a great coach. And,
So how'd you get Big Marn?
Well,
and
it was through Hadley. I was doing radio, right? I've been doing radio on, with Ray Hadley for a long time. And I went through a stage, and I don't know why I did, about 20 years ago, where I started speaking American all the time. I said, how are you doing? Yeah, that's great. Like, while I'm on air, I just start talking American accent. Yeah. And the Marn came out of it, just called me Big Marn. Hadley started calling me Big Marn. I said, yeah, and Bozo and all them. It's just stuck, mate. I love it. Like, I sign emails. Mate, if I walk down the street, and I'm not saying everyone knows me, but some people do, I would say, seriously, 1 in 50 would call me Darryl. No doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, Big Maarn. I say, oh, hello, champion. How you go? I forget names and whatever. I don't even know if I know these people. I say, how you going, champion?
What about a clothing brand? Have you thought about
Big Maarn clothing. I have thought about it, but I'm too old now, so I don't worry about it. I mean, I don't want to go against Lowe's. They've been very good to me over a long period of time, but I think the Big Maarn range would be good. I don't know if I've patented Big Maarn. Or is it patented?
Yes.
Can you say that?
Patented.
What?
Ted.
Anyway, I don't know if I've got it done,
Right.
but I don't think I have. But, mate, I think Big Maarn, it's something that's stuck with me for 20 years, and it will stick with me to the day I die. I love it. Like as I said, I'll sign off on emails, Big Maarn. Everyone knows who it is.
Another year at the Bulldogs, and then back to Penrith.
Yep.
How did that come about?
Well, going back to Penrith?
Yeah, did Canterbury not make you an offer?
Basically, yes. I may have over-celebrated after the 84 grand final. We went all expenses paid to America on a trip away with the boys, and I may have, as I said, gone a bit overboard over there and come back about 15 kilos overweight. So
So Tim Sheens rang you, didn't he?
Well, yeah, mate, I was going to go to England to play footy at the end of 80.
You'd have been a Brian Lockwood over there, wouldn't you?
I would have. It's something I regret I didn't do. I would have loved to have gone there, but the opportunity didn't arise after that. I'm trying to remember who tried to buy me. It's one of the lower clubs. It was the club that Chris Anderson coached, and they might have won the comp. So a lot of the Canterbury boys went over there. Langmack went there. I think Cement might have gone there, Gillespie, and a few of them went over there, and I'd signed to go as well, but I got a notification about January that I was the 6th signed and they could only take 5 or something. So basically they pulled the pin on that. So I had to try and work out what I wanted to do. And I got a call from, I think it was Tim Sheens, if I wanted to go back to Penrith, because I was still living at Penrith. And I was good mates with all the boys, all the Penrith boys. So I said, yeah, I'd love to. He said, look, there is one stipulation. I said, what's that? He said, you have to get down to 95 kilos or I won't play you in first grade.
What were you at the time?
105, 106, probably. Probably about 150 now. So, it hasn't been good the last 20 years for me, fitness-wise. But I've had a good life. Anyway, I went back there and he was true to what he said. He didn't play me in first grade for quite a while. And I was frothed. I wanted to play first grade because this was around the time when they had Royce was still there, who I'm great mates with Royce. I love Royce Simmons. Royce was there. Greg Alexander had come on, on board. MG, Cartwright, Van der Voort. That's Brad Izzard, super player Brad Izzard. Steve Carter. They had a lot of players who were good players, and I wanted to be part of it. But it took me about half the year to get to the weight, or probably a bit less. Anyway, I got to the weight and he put me into first grade, and I played pretty good because I ended up playing for Queensland again that year. But Sheensy turned me from one of the greatest ball players in the history of the game into a tackling machine, which I probably wish that didn't happen, but that's just the way it was.
Were you a Cam Murray type?
No, I wouldn't say I was a Cam Murray type. I was a front rower who was 95 kilos, so I was getting bashed by the big boys, but I tackled all right. Like, mate, I was never I was an okay defender, but I was lazy. I didn't want to defend. It was a pain in the ass. I hated tackling. You get hurt tackling people. But I realised that if I was going to play first grade again, I had to lift in that area, and I did. And as luck would have it, I ended up getting a call from Wayne Bennett. So I'm thinking of picking you in the Origin side for Origin game number 2. Queensland lost the first game, and I got picked.
Good call up. Well done.
Yeah.
So you and Wayne obviously formed a relationship back then, and Wayne went on to coach Brisbane when they came into the comp in 1988 and recruited you as his
reserve grade
coach.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I was chuffed by that. I'd retired in 87. I'd finished. We won a comp reserve grade with Penrith in 87 under the great Graham Murray. God rest his soul. What a great man he was.
Champion.
And a great coach. Great coach, but a better bloke. Anyway, we won a comp, but we had a good side in reserve grade too because Tim Sheens had implemented the 2.5K time trial in 87, and it was punishing. Like, if you didn't, forwards had to run it in 10 minutes and backs had to run it in 9 minutes 30. Like, if I was an Olympic 2-kilometre time trialist back in 1940, I would have won the Olympics. I was running that fast, but I was running like 10:30s.
Yeah.
So what he did, he wanted me in first grade. I know he wanted me to play first grade, but I couldn't run the time. So it just, I didn't play. I played reserve grade.
Yeah.
So he'd run me on, I'd try it on a Monday, which we didn't train Mondays. So I'd try it. If I did on a Monday, I'd be picked for first grade. Couldn't do it. Did again on Tuesday, probably Wednesday. By Thursday, I'd had enough, said, don't worry about it, I'll just play reserve grade. But I had even some of the boys, and I love this with the Penrith boys, and I love the Penrith boys. They're a great club. So, some of them actually physically pushed me in the runs, not by speech, by hands, to run faster, because they wanted me to play first grade too. I got on good with all of them. And, but it wasn't to be. Like Jeff Gerard was there, he couldn't do it, I don't think. Jethro played reserve grade with us as well, so... there was a few of us who couldn't do it, who played reserve grade, who probably should have played first grade. But anyway, that was the way Tim went about it, and that was fine. I had a few issues with Tim. I'm good with him now. But that was the way it was.
Back to your coaching career, 1988, reserve grade coach at the Broncos.
Yep.
End of that season, Wayne Bennett sacks you.
Yes.
Why did he sack you?
I was a threat.
You're a threat to Wayne Bennett?
Yep.
Right.
Well, no one else thinks that, but I believe that. I'm the only one who's ever probably said that. But
right.
I believe he sacked me because I was a threat. Look, at the end of the day, I was a shit coach. I just wanted to get on the drink with the boys after the games. And I you know what, when I was playing, I always thought, I reckon I'll be a good coach, because I understood the game, or I think I understood the game, but I must admit I didn't have... I didn't have the right mental attitude towards coaching, similar to when I was playing with my fitness and stuff. And I probably, if I would have, like Bellamy ended up reserve grade coach there. I could have been doing what he's doing. Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but I could have. But so
you got picked up by Canterbury a year later.
Yeah, I did.
As reserve grade coach.
Well, Gussie, the great Gus Mercurio, Gould, he was my mate. I played with him at Penrith, and he knew I'd got the flick from the Broncos, and I wasn't devastated by it, but I was upset by it. No one likes getting the sack. And I was going through a tough stage in my personal life, and out of the blue he rang me and just said, do you want to come back to Sydney and coach the Reggies at Canterbury? And I thought, well, 1988, Canterbury won the comp in 88, first grade, remember? Mm-hmm. Well, I managed to drag them back in 89. Missed the semis, I think, in 89, first grade. Yeah. Reggie's missed the semis in 89. Oh. So that could have been I don't know if I coached for 1 or 2 years there. It might have been, I don't know if might have had 2 years there, but I was no good at it, mate.
You mentioned the great Terry Lamb, who you played with at Canterbury.
I love Terry.
He'd have been good to play with, eh?
Yeah, well, at times.
Yeah. Was he...
Mate, I don't know if he's a gambler or not, but I'll tell you a story. Our first trial match in whenever I went to Canterbury, 84, I think, was against Canberra down at Seaford Oval. Like we'd, as I said before, we'd signed a lot of good players. We had a very good side. Well, about that time was the time that the tab brought in footy betting. You punt on the footy. And I've been a punter all my life. Never punted on the football in games I played, except maybe for this game. Playing a trial match against Canberra, had a crappy side in 84. We had a good gun side. And they were betting on the game. Anyway, we stopped on the bus. We get the bus from Canterbury Leagues, stopped down at Goulburn. What's the name of that joint at Goulburn? Mixed grills and all the good stuff.
Paragon.
Yeah. We stop at the Paragon. This is on the day of the game.
Yeah.
So we left Canterbury, say, at 9 in the morning, playing at, say, 6 at night. Got to the Paragon. I've ordered a mixed grill. I love mixed grills.
Game day.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's the way I operated. So I got sausages, chops,
eggs, liver?
bacon. I don't like liver.
No.
Steak,
right.
Chips.
You like chips,
whole
don't
lot,
you?
Whole lot.
Yeah.
I had a lot. So I thought, well, I've got about 6-7 hours to, process this.
Yeah.
It'll be out by the time I play. Anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm munching on one of my chops, and Terry Lamb's sitting next to me. He said, do you like a punt? Like I've only known him for a month or two. I said, yeah, I do, as a matter of fact. He said, did you know they're betting on this game today? Our game. I said, yeah, Terry, we'll be about $1.02 and they'll be about $8. He said, yeah, I know that. He said, but they're also betting on pick the score, correct score. And I said, yeah, what do you want? He said, well, you know I'm a field goal expert. And I started thinking, I thought, this bloke might be a genius here. I said, this is early days. Remember, no one think about that. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, well, if I kick a field goal, it'll be an odd number. No one's going to take any odd numbers in this game. So I started chewing on my chop again, had a bit of the sausage, just processing it all in my brain. I said, okay, what do you want to do? He said, there's a tab just down the road. Give me 50 and we'll put 100 on us with an odd number. I said, what are you going to do? He said, we'll take 41, 43, 45, 47, 49, and we'll take them 0, 2, 4, 6, in case they fluke a try or something. It's all right. Give him the 50, goes down and puts all the combinations of that on. We've got about 5 or 6 times going. Half-time comes in the game. Like, that's all I'm thinking about. Trying to play well, but we're leading like 18-0 half-time. So we're on track here. And I said, mate, I think it'd be better if I give away a penalty close to the post and they kick a goal. Because everyone's going to take 0. They won't take them 2. Give away a penalty in the second half, 18-2, they kick a goal. So this is going good. Anyway, we get towards the end of the game and we haven't kicked a field goal yet, right? So it's about 40-2 or something like that. And I'm feeling good. I said, Terry, what do you want to do? You want to kick a field goal now or what do you want to do? He said, yeah, okay. He said, you take the next hit up and get tackled and I'll kick the field goal. I said, all right. Well, I took it up, but my competitive juices started flowing. I steamrolled over a couple of them, sidestepped the halfback, got to the fullback, chipped over the top, regathered and scored under the sticks. It's one of the greatest trial tries of all time by a front rower. Kicked the goal. He said, you fat idiot. I said, oh, shit, that's right. It's 46-2. It's about 3 minutes left. I said, okay, I'll get us up there. We'll get up there. We get up there. He kicks a field goal. It's 47-2. We've got it. We've got 47-2. And we're like, at Seaford Oval, there's about 500 people there. Even I started doing back flips, side flips, forward rolls, all this stuff. I'm that happy. Everyone's looking at me saying, what's this idiot doing here? Anyway, I thought, still 2 minutes to go in the game, 47-2. Remembering we got 49-2. I said to Steve Mortimer, who's the captain, I said, that no one knows about besides me and Terry. I said to Steve, I said, mate, can you make sure we don't score another try or anything? Like no more tries, please. He said, what? I said, can you just make sure we don't score another try? It's not hard. Please don't. Anyway, one of our dickhead forwards makes a break up the middle of the ruck, gets tackled about 10 metres out. I said, please, Steve, no. He said, okay. So I went back to Steve Mortimer and kicked another field goal. I said, for fuck's sake. It's 48-2. We don't have that. I had my one and only attempted field goal in first grade rugby league from the kick-off from 55 metres out. I never really went close. So there's another way to do your money.
Oh, Big Man, you're lucky there's no integrity.
We had 47, 49. Mate, would have paid a fortune. Anyway.
Oh, you're lucky the integrity unit wasn't about that.
It's too late now. Don't give a rat's whether they want to check it out or not. In fact, I can't even remember if the story's true. I'm that old. I may have just made that up, but I don't know. I think it's true.
Yeah. Hey, you're obviously a great storyteller, and that helped very much with you getting into the media. Tell us a little bit about your media career with Channel 9 Footy Show and of course, and 2GB.
Mate, I loved it. The Footy Show was fantastic. Fatty's a great man. He is the most talented football player in front of a camera that I've ever seen. He's just a natural, mate. And you know what it's like. Everyone knows what he's like. He does a little head wobble, stuffs up, doesn't give a rat's. Oh, well, we'll go on to something else. He says stuff that he thinks is right and he's wrong most of the time. But he's retired now and he thoroughly deserved it, mate. He made a great living out of that. But I somehow got onto it through his association, I think, with Johnny Gibbs. I worked with Gibbsy on the radio for a while till he had a falling out with Hadley, and then he left. And then I've always remained friends with Gibbsy, and I think he must have put a good word in for me or something. In fact, they had a section on the Footy Show they thought I'd be good at, the one where they had the kids scoring tries and whatever, that sort of stuff. So I did that section, and anyway, that sort of developed into a longer term role for me on the Footy Show, and I was probably there for 10 years. I don't know how long I was there, but probably 10 years, and I loved every minute of it. It was very. I never thought I'd be on television, mate. I've done so much stuff that I never thought I'd ever do, like radio, TV, modelling. Like, seriously, have a look at my head. Look at my body. I've done my model for Lowe's for 30 years. It's been incredible.
How have you handled fame? Have women flocked to you over the years?
Well, this is another issue. Look, I'd have to be honest and say no. Quite remarkably, no. But ever since I've been married, had a partner and stuff like that, and I've become famous, I thought I was a chance on many occasions, but of course I've just pushed them away. So that shan't be happening. Not on my watch anyway. Not until I'm single, then I'm a chance. And now I've had my prostate out. Jesus Christ. I've had no luck. Hello, prostate. You had yours out?
Oh, no, not yet. No. I was going to ask you
about that. You may as well.
That.
You don't use it much. I
was going to ask you.
What?
When you were diagnosed with prostate cancer, and it is a very serious topic, and you've been a good spokesman for checks and all that sort of stuff. What was it like? How'd you cope with that?
I probably didn't understand how serious it was at the time. And it's as I've probably got older, I've sort of understood that I was very lucky. I actually went to my GP and just got a regular blood test, and he sort of picked it up from that. So I had no real symptoms of anything. And then he said, mate, you could have prostate cancer. I thought, oh, geez. So had the operation. In those days, it's a bit different now. They do keyhole surgery now. I got a cut about that far on my groin. And, mate, I was sick for 3 weeks. I was really sick in hospital. It was really, really difficult. But I got through it. And, a bloke said to me, I remember probably about 6 months after it, he said, oh, I've got prostate, blah, blah, blah. Can't get an erection, all that shit. And he said, mate, would you rather be hard below the ground or soft above it? I thought, this bloke's good. So I've fulfilled that. I've been soft above the ground for about the last 20 years.
And every negative there's a positive. The good news was
there's not many positives, mate. There's not many positives to come out of prostate cancer.
You had insurance.
Well, actually, I did. Yeah. I did have insurance.
Tell us about that.
Give us some skin. I forgot about that. I've probably given you 7.5% of that too. I can't remember, but I did. I forgot all about that. Yeah. So a bloke actually rang me up. I've always had life insurance. Yeah. I've still got life insurance. Geez, it costs a lot now in my situation. It costs a shitload now. But I had anyway, the bloke who I was doing it through rang me up. He said, I read the other day you've had a prostate operation. I said, yeah, I did. He said, you're covered by that in your insurance. I said, for what? He said, for that. I said, yeah. He said, yeah. I said, well, how much? He said, 100,000. I said, do I have to do something? He said, no, I'll do it for you. 100,000.
Done.
Bought a house. Mate, this is 2010. It's 15 years ago. So, as you said, out of something bad, something good can sometimes happen, and that's about the only good thing to come out. But I am clear of it, mate, and I'm grateful to my GP for picking up on it, and and I've had the operation, and mate, I'm 68 now.
And obviously encourage.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, at any age, I don't think there should be an age limit on it. 30, 40, whatever you are, get checked.
Yeah.
It's a simple blood test. It's not hard.
Yeah.
You should have a blood test anyway,
So, mate, after that battle, you decided to lose some weight and actually teamed up with Jenny Craig.
I did.
Yeah.
And
that went quite well.
Yeah, it was good. Well, it went good for you. You organised it. I starved to death for 12 months. I did lose a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And mate, Jenny Craig were good to me.
Yeah.
Really good to me, but I was starving. So as soon as that situation fell apart, I got back on the chips and pies and got fat again.
Yeah.
Straight away. So, mate, I'm not proud of that. I'd love to be skinny and, smaller than what I am, but that's what I am.
Yeah.
Jenny Craig were great. The food was good, just wasn't enough of it. You know, you have to eat 3 or 4 of those little packages to fulfill my hunger. But I was only eating one. I did drop a fair bit. I probably dropped 10, 12 kilos. And I was actually looking pretty.
I thought you lost more, actually.
Well, I may have. I can't remember. But, mate, it was very good. And if anyone asked me about Jenny Crow, are they still around?
Yes.
Good on you, Jenny. You're doing some great stuff. But, mate, they were good. They were good to me, and I enjoyed it. But, no, actually, I'm lying. They were good to me. I didn't enjoy it. But I did it because I did want to lose some weight. But in the end, I sort of got to a stage that...
You like chocolate, don't you?
Yes.
You did a deal with Cadbury's there once. They were giving you free chocolate.
No, not really.
Well, they gave you
I got one of those blocks that was like about 10 kilos. You know, those big blocks about that high.
Yeah.
And the chocolate was about that thick.
Yeah.
You probably got one too.
The size of a
surfboard.
surfboard.
Well, they never did a deal with me.
Did you eat all yours?
Of course. I stole it from 2GB where they had it there. I was there for about a week. I thought Paul Gallen sort of rubbed off on me, and I thought, we're going to pinch this. Yeah. I didn't really pinch it. I just took it home. But, mate, it was, I think, a 10-kilo block. It took a while to get rid of it, probably a month. You know, come home every day and have 3 or 4 blocks of it, but they're about that thick. They were massive. But I never had a deal with Cadbury, even though I do love Cadbury chocolate. In my opinion, it's the best.
You talked about your modelling. Have you ever been offered any movie roles or anything like that?
I did do one once. I can't even remember the name of the show. I was a thug, I think. And I was with a Pommy actor who was quite successful. He won a BAFTA, but I can't remember his name either. Anyway, that was my one and only attempt at movies, even though I think I could do a lot of that stuff.
What about...
Well, this is all coming back to me now. I'd forgotten about all this stuff. You're bringing it up. You know everything about me.
I do my research. What about the future for you, mate? How many more years do you think you've got in media? I'm hoping 5 or 6.
Yeah, I know. You're hoping for as long as possible. Mate, I'm 68 now. I've just got a 2-year deal with GB. I would say that would probably be the end. I mean, if they wanted me to go on, if I felt all right, I'd do it. I love doing it, mate. I've been so lucky, seriously, to have made a living out of being involved in rugby league. Not as a player. I've made more money like in the media side of it. You know, TV, I love the TV. But that came to an abrupt end, I think, in 16. I think the ratings dropped a bit, and it was costing Channel 9 a fair bit, I think, to have the Footy Show on air. And I think Thursday night football didn't do it any favours either, because Thursday night football started, like the show wasn't starting till 10 o'clock at night. Like, mate, I even wanted to go to bed before the show. Like, it was a long night. Yeah. But I loved it, but that was probably the beginning of the end for it. You know, people have wanted it back, and so many people say to me, I'll bring back the Footy Show. Mate, you couldn't bring back the Footy Show unless Fatty was running it, because he's that unique and it's his show. And I think in respect of Fat, I don't think they'll ever bring a Footy Show back because it was his show, mate. You know, he was brilliant. I mean, the things we did there, like we did the Highway of Happiness. We drove down in a camper van from Toowoomba to Sydney. Mate, I had to sleep on the... There was like 1 or 2 beds in it, but I couldn't sleep in one of the beds, so I slept on the table, laid down with the mattress on it. I broke that the first night. Then the camper van, I didn't know where the light switches were and had to get up to do a wee in the middle of the night. And I had a rough idea where the toilet was.
Was there trouble?
Well, there was a bit of an issue. I opened the door, but I was busting by this stage. So I couldn't really get in because I was too big. So I just had a shot from where I was standing and just thought, I reckon that's gone in. You know, when you try it, you just, you know, you have a rough idea where the bowl is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I finished, went back to bed. Had sleep apnea machine on, of course, as well, thanks to Sauvé, great company. Next morning, the Fat gets up to go to the toot. He loves me, but he was quite irate this day when he found a few little puddles and stuff on the, you know, on the bowl, and it's just wee, but I didn't know where it was. I didn't know where the lights were, but he had the bloody master bedroom, so that's what you got to put up with. And then, mate, we drove all the way from Toowoomba back to Channel 9 in Sydney. And, you know, not a scratch on the vehicle. We treated it like it was our own. Got into Channel 9, and where the gate is, you got to go through security, there's like a panel goes across over the top. Fat drove it in, straight in, peeled the back off. Channel 9, like we're fair dinkum 50 metres from home, and he peels the top off the camper van, driving it in there. So, but mate, those things, the
darkroom,
room challenge,
you loved the darkroom challenge,
it was scary.
Yeah,
you couldn't see anything.
You're in a room.
You got to try and get a key out. Like they had a competition where there was a car. If you got the key, you give it to a football club, and they get a car.
Yeah.
Well, they put me and Fat in that again together. Like they had different blokes doing different things. But, mate, they put us in this big room where there were like fish bowls, but they were full of, I thought they were full of like tarantulas, snakes, lizards, just bad stuff, baby crocodiles, all that stuff.
Like you had that life insurance, eh?
Well, mate, you do poop yourself when you're there. Because I didn't know what to do. I was sort of trying to push him, and I was bagging him, saying, "You're soft. You have a go." But you put your hand, you're shaking. We're all shaking because we didn't know what was in there. In the end, there was nothing that was going to hurt you, obviously, but you probably cop a little nip off something. Might have been a frilled lizard or something in there. But, mate, it was scary. It was really scary. But it was funny too.
It's a bit like, "Are you a celebrity? Get me out of here," well before that was even
probably. But the only difference was you didn't have to eat the shit they had to eat. I mean, I'm quite amazed I've never been asked to go on that great show. But, mate, I couldn't
would you go
do
on
it. No, I wouldn't do it. I don't, man, I'm too old. I wouldn't do it. I've got sleep apnea. I'd be like Warney. Warney used to get smokes and stuff like that out the back. Well, I'd want electricity to put my machine on so I could sleep, But I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Is there any reality TV shows you would go on?
I'm too old for it, mate. Too old now. I don't want to do that stuff anymore. I'd love to do some TV, but footy stuff, But mate, that won't be happening. I'm too old.
What would be a good TV show for you? Because you did Small Talk with Channel 9, and that was good fun. Yeah,
but that was just a segment on the Footy Show. I mean, I thought at one stage they might have been able to do, expand that to have its own half hour or something.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So, mate, I don't think I'm suited to anything.
Beauty and the Beast, bring it back?
No, mate, no. I'm too old, mate. I don't want to do that stuff anymore. I don't want to, particularly at night time. I get tired. I want to go to bed. I'm still getting over Las Vegas. I've only been back about a week, and I still can't get to sleep properly.
So you've been 2 years in a row to Vegas?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Are you going back next year?
I don't know. We'll see.
Right.
See, GB went over there as well. I took a little tour over there, but they went over. All the boys from 2GB. We called the game from over there. So, Piggy, Peter Pasaltis went over. Josh Morris was there. There's a few over there. Levy couldn't go because he's doing Hadley's show now, so he couldn't go. But it was good. If I went again, I'd want to come home the day after because I just get a bit of home. It's like, I don't want to give you the example I gave someone the other day, but it's like when you've finished something, you just want to go home, and that's the way I felt. But I didn't leave until I think the Tuesday after the game. So I was still there Sunday, Monday, and the Tuesday. And last year when I was coming home, the plane got cancelled. So we're on the plane, we're on the runway. Seriously, I'd had enough. I just wanted to get home. We're on the plane, we've eased out, got on the tarmac and just idled for about an hour. Next minute, old mate up the thing says, look, there's been a bit of an issue here. He talks like Hadley. He says, we've run out of petrol. We've got to go back to the dock. Then they had to find a dock. Like all the docks were taken by then. It was like 10 o'clock at night. Cut a long story short, they said, look, we can't fly tonight. You've got to go tomorrow. We'll book you into accommodation. I go, like, I've got to wait for your bag. So the bags will be down on the carousel 22 or something in about 20 minutes off the plane. Well, mine didn't come off for 2 hours. So I'm exhausted. I just want to go to bed. But my sleep apnea machine's in my bag, so I can't sleep without my sleep apnea machine. So, cut a long story short, I can't get my bag. I end up going back to the hotel or whatever it was. Like, didn't sleep a wink. Had to go the next night. It was just a nightmare. It was a really bad end to what was a pretty good tour, But travel knocks me about a bit now too.
So Bali, you've been to Bali?
Love Bali.
Yeah.
Love Bali. Been there.
There's a sports bar there.
Yeah, the Y Bar.
Y Bar.
It's a great place. You can have a bet there.
Is there a photo of you in there somewhere?
I don't know. There could be.
Yeah.
I've been there a few times. We spent a few Saturdays there. And when you go over there, you always run into other Aussies because it's chock full of Aussies. And there's 1,000 Aussies at the Y Bar. And you'll always know somebody there. There's the big AFL bloke, just a legend, big moustache. Forget his name. But Dipper. Well, I've become reasonable mates with Dipper.
He's done some reality shows.
Well, but he was in Bali. He's been to Bali a few times when I've been there, and he knew me through the Footy Show, and I knew him because he's a legend. And he used to go to the Y Bar as well. We spent a couple of afternoons there together. His missus is a good girl, and she gets on good with my missus, and we just get on the drink, bintangs, and have a punt.
Any luck on the punt? Then?
Probably not, but I can't remember. And then you might go and have dinner, because Australia's a few hours before Bali, I think. I think the first race, Bali time, might start about 9 or something like that. So it's a long day. But that was only one day a week. It was just like Australia was, 30 years ago, where you just had races on the Saturday, really.
Yeah.
But now they're on every day, as you know. But that was always a good day. But mate, Bali in those days was always a bit cheaper too. The beer was good. The hotels were great. But I think the Balinese have caught up with the Aussies to a certain degree, and I think it's a bit dearer there than it used to be. It's still good value, but I still enjoy Bali. I haven't been for a couple of years though.
Wouldn't be $12 US to get your money out of the wall, would it?
No, it wouldn't be that. I don't think. Well, mate, they've got the money changes there and whatever. You just take some cash and change them over there. But I don't think I've ever used the handy bank in Bali. I wouldn't trust it. But mate, a lot of people. Bali's one of those places where I think where you either love or you hate. But my experiences there have all been pretty good.
Has Big Maarn hit the surf in Bali?
No, never.
Right.
I hit the beach because they have the beach bars there.
Yeah.
That's one thing I used to love. They'd have made old plastic chairs, and I'd start sitting on a plastic chair that was that high off the sand, and after about an hour sitting there, it'd be about that far off the sand. My ass would be just about hitting the sand because it sunk that far. Yeah. But they'd have an esky full of bintangs and. A couple of dollars for a bintang. You'd sit there, and normally you'd be with people you don't know. Yeah. A lot of Aussies go there, and there's one every 5 metres. But it's just great to meet other people and just have a chat and kick back.
Is Big Maarn a star over there? Does he have fans
not really.
in Bali?
Oh yes, but modesty prevents me from saying it. But no, mate. The battlers who go over there know me. I'm sort of it's like I keep mentioning Fatty, but. Every battler in the world knows Fatty. Every Aussie battler knows Fatty. And I think, because of the show, the big wigs might know who I am, but most of the battlers do.
Do you enjoy fame or you manage it well?
I just manage it, mate.
You don't mind saying hello to anyone?
Oh, I do. I try to all the time, mate.
Yeah.
I hate to let people down with, if they ask me for a photo, I always give them a photo.
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends on the way they ask sometimes, because sometimes there's some smart asses out there that... that do rub you the wrong way, and then I won't give them anything because there's a way to speak to people, and if you're humble enough and they speak to you nicely, I'll always sign an autograph, which you don't do many of these days. It's mainly a selfie, nearly always a selfie. People want to get a photo with you and stuff like that. But I found out actually it amazed me when we were in Vegas this year. When they had the Fan Fest in Fremont Street, which was phenomenal, mate, I reckon I had 250 photos taken that afternoon. Yeah, a lot of people, mate, all football heads.
Yeah.
They know you. The footy heads know you from the Footy Show, and I reckon I did 250 that day. It was good. It's fine.
Does Big Maarn still like free stuff?
Do you know anyone who doesn't? Have you ever met someone who doesn't like something for free? Not that I get much stuff for free anymore, but the answer is yes. Yeah. Do you like stuff for free?
Yeah, I like free stuff.
Anyone else like stuff for free? Yes. Is there an Aussie alive doesn't like something for free? But I don't get a lot of free stuff, but if it's free, I'm happy to have it.
Just quickly, mate, talk about footy just to wrap up. Best player in the game today?
I think Cleary. I think his impact is incredible.
Best player you've ever seen?
Wally Lewis. Wally Lewis could dominate at a level that no one else has ever really dominated at, State of Origin. I was lucky enough, I played 2 games with Wally. I get on quite well with Wally. Wally could be a bit abrasive in the early stages, but as he's matured not matured, probably got older, I very rarely speak to him, but when I do see him, it's quite jovial. I like Wally.
Big Marn's best day ever at work in rugby league?
No, I can't. I've had a lot of them, mate. The radio, it would be a grand final. I can't recall which one. Might have been the year I had the double Richmond into the Roosters a few years ago.
Not your grand final.
No, that wasn't one of mine. Were you talking about mine?
Yeah, I was talking
about without doubt, the 84 grand final.
Yeah.
Because I had an impact in it.
Yeah.
I didn't play that long in minutes-wise.
You turned the game, didn't you?
Well, I don't know if I turned the game, but I think I contributed to the victory.
Yeah. Well, I was there. I thought you played well.
Yeah, mate, I did a bit of ball playing, and it was good. I look back fondly on that. I only look at it once every week.
Yep.
The IQ will burn out shortly, but it's. I often tell people if you ever want to see a superstar, look at the 84 grand final second half. I played good.
State of Origin this year?
Oh, well, I'll tip Queensland every year, mate.
Right.
Every year.
Can Penrith go again?
Of course they can. Mate, it's getting harder for them, but they've got, the fullback, the halfback. They've lost the 5'8". They'll miss Luai. I think they'll miss him a lot because should something happen to Cleary, he stood in and did it brilliantly. But I think they're good enough to do it. I actually like the Broncos. I think the Broncos have got a good enough side to compete this year, and they've got the fullback's a genius. I love watching him play.
How would Big Maarn like to be remembered as a rugby league player?
Oh, mate, just someone who's a good teammate, pretty handy player. That's about it. I wasn't the world's best. I wasn't the worst. I played, I don't know how many first grade games, but I played a lot of reserve grade as well.
114 first grade games, yeah.
Okay. How many reserve grade I play?
Oh, I didn't count.
I reckon I played 50 reserve grade, so I played a lot.
Yeah.
But, mate, I as I said before, I and I don't want to blame it, but I got that many injuries. It was always hard for me. I kept dislocating my shoulder. I kept breaking my arm, and I just couldn't get a run on. But I didn't also. I wasn't good to myself either because I just wasn't fit enough.
Mm-hmm. And how would the Big Marn like to be remembered as a person?
Oh, mate, I'd try to be myself. Always have tried to be myself. I don't try and, flick out any airs and graces and things like that. I've been so lucky. Really, I've been hit up the backside with a rainbow. Really, when it comes to media stuff, I sold pokies for a number of years, but I've got out of that and I had a crack at the media full time, and I've managed to earn a living from it, every year since. And I still am. But, mate, as a person, I've created a few headlines through the Les Boyd stuff over the years, but I think I'm a reasonable person. I think people who know me would agree.
We could have talked for another couple of hours, mate.
Yeah, glad we didn't because I'm not getting paid.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for chiming in on Chiming In today.
It's a great show, Chiming In. I can't wait to see this.
Good on you, Big Man.
See you, mate.
See you, mate.